Hello, welcome back. We're going to switch gears a little bit. We're going to talk about something incredibly important called the Pythagorean theorem. The Pythagorean theorem is named after a fellow named Pythagoras a long time ago who invented this mathematical thing called the Pythagorean theorem, and it turns out to be really, really useful. It all comes down to the concept of triangles. So we need to talk about right triangles. Right triangles. Right? And what we mean by a right triangle is a triangle with at least one of those angles inside being 90 degrees. So let's draw a picture of a right triangle right here. So here is a triangle. This is typically what you draw when you want to talk about right triangles. Now, what we need to say to make it a right triangle means that one of these angles is 90 degrees, and that's what the square means. The little square in the corner, that means 90 degrees. That means that this side of the triangle and this side of the triangle, they meet perpendicularly at exactly 90 degrees right there. So 90 degrees is there. Now these other angles can be different values, but only one of these angles has to be 90 degrees in order to make it a right triangle. Now, it turns out when you're doing Pythagorean theorem, you have to label the sides of these right triangles. Now, the side that's always the one across from 90 degrees, see how this is a 90 degree angle? The side that's across from it is always labeled C. The other two sides are labeled A and B, and it doesn't matter if this one is A and this one is B, or if this one is A and this one is B. It doesn't matter. The only one that really matters is that C, the side C, is always the one opposite from the 90 degree angle. And because of that, for a right triangle, the side C, the one that's opposite 90 degrees, is always the longest side. And because of that, it has a special name. It's called the hypotenuse. Hypotenuse. So that's really important. We're learning a little bit of geometry along the way here. You're going to come across this Pythagorean theorem pretty much forever. You'll learn it in algebra and you'll learn it again in geometry. It's really important. So before we write any math down, you have a right triangle, which just means one of the angles is 90 degrees. The longest side of the right triangle is always the one opposite the 90 degree angle, and it's always called side C, and has a special name called the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is always the longest side of the right triangle. Now, once you have all this down, the Pythagorean theorem, let's write it down, Pythagorean theorem, theorem, is as follows. It says that the side A squared plus the side B squared is equal to the side C squared. This is important, so I'm going to circle it. Now you see why it's important that the side C is always the one opposite 90 degrees. That's